All right, let's bring Jay Blevins in. Jason Blevins at Jay Blevins NBA from 97.3 ESPN.com. He's got a great story up on Tyrese Maxey. Go check that out right now. The rookie has been one of the one of the fun, I should say, bright spots early in this COVID season where the Sixers lineup has been in and out. So let's start with him and get your thought on what you found out about Maxey in terms of what – You draft guys in that area in the 20s, and you don't expect a player like this. But, man, you think to yourself, they really lucked out, number one, by getting that pick. It took a Mike Muscala jumper to get that pick. But as we've seen more and more of him, what are we learning about Tyrese Maxey?
Well, yeah, I think the first thing we've learned is that he's got an NBA-level handle. So he handles the ball fantastically well. First couple of games, teams try to really trap and pressure him. He's handled that. He really doesn't turn the ball over. For a rookie, it's pretty remarkable just how few turnovers and what his turnover rate is. It's so low. 7% turnover rate is incredibly low. He can get to basically any spot on the floor, and I think the other big surprise is how comfortable he is knocking down shots in that soft part of a defense, that mid-range pull-up, and those floaters in the lane. So, I mean, he's passed virtually every test he's had so far.
With that, I mean, will his role change when they finally get a full brigade of guys back? I mean, it seems like it's been 2 weeks now since they've really had a full roster to see how Doc Rivers is going to end up using him.
I don't think it will. I mean, I don't think you should expect him to start very often once they've got a full complement. I think he and Shake Milton are the archetype that Doc Rivers loves, which are ball-handling guards off the bench who are microwave scorers and just attack the defense and try to keep pace and not allow big runs on the other side. So, not turning the ball over and it is the key to not giving up runs to the other team off the bench. And giving him a green light, I don't expect that to change whatsoever.
What about his three-point shooting? That was a knock coming into the year. He's shooting 27 from three now. The catch and shoot compared to off the bounce is a little bit different, though, when you look at those statistics. He wasn't very strong at Kentucky. So do you think that he's someone who can absolutely add that to his game and take that next step as the years go on, or is he just maybe not a strong three-point shooter, and that's just part of who he is?
Yeah, it doesn't concern me at all. His shot doesn't concern me at all. I don't think he's a three-point sniper specialist, right? He's a scorer, and he's got that scorer's lower body, and I think he's in that range of guys that should be a 35 to 38% three-point shooter for their career. And it doesn't concern me at all. It really doesn't.
Jason Blevins, Inside the Sixers. Hey, when you watched the Bucks and the Nets last night, if you did or not, I'm assuming that you checked in on it. When you watch those two teams, now, you're going to get Kyrie back, I would imagine. What version of Kyrie, we don't know. But do you say that the Sixers are a step below those two teams?
I think the Sixers have ways to stress defenses when they're all together. When Joel Embiid and Seth Curry are in the lineup, everything else becomes easier for everyone else. They and the Nets are the two teams that can stress defenses in multiple ways and really break the will of even an elite defense. The Bucks, I don't see them in that tier, quite frankly. I think they look great in the regular season. Giannis is a superhero. But what they do, they can really only beat you really in one way, which is the Giannis penetrate and kick, right? He's either going to dunk on you or he's going to kick out. And that's just one of those things that a disciplined defense in the course of a 7-game series figures out. And I think you've seen that historically with Budenholzer teams is they get figured out in long series.
Now, would that suggest that the Sixers don't need to add, they're probably going to tweak, but do they need to add an impact player, a Beal, or can they just get a secondary player to what they have to maybe, overtake the Nets?
Well, I think the big challenge, and I really don't want to start a big controversial thing or feed into a controversy. I think there is a very real question around Ben Simmons, his role in half-court offense in the playoffs. So I think what you're starting to see is teams in his fourth season in the NBA, teams have a simplified game plan on how they defend him, which is create a wall at around 6 or 8 feet from the basket, get him to pick up his dribble around that spot. He's not gonna pull the ball up like a Tyrese Maxey will, or virtually any guard, and use a floater or a pull-up jumper. He's going to pick the ball up and he's going to look for outlets. And teams are sitting on those on that moment, and they're jumping those routes, and it's leading to pick sixes. And that stuff really can't happen when you get into the playoffs. So then you ask, if he doesn't have the ball and he's not the primary downhill penetrator, where on the floor is he standing when someone else is running the offense? So I think that's still an open question. They've got 50 or 60 games for him to create counters to the way teams are playing him. But I think the book is pretty well written on this current version of Ben Simmons, and he's going to have to adjust. And I think that's the number one thing that this team is going to have to solve. And it really comes down to him.
The team that really put that out there defensively was the Boston Celtics. And since we kind of touched on the Nets and the Bucks, and they are the next opponent, how do you think this Sixers team matches up against Boston with, I'm talking more long-term with Tatum, not so much this upcoming game that you'll see on Wednesday?
Boston just has a way of making their lives really difficult. They gamble a lot. They challenge the opposing refs to call a bunch of fouls. They get their hands on everything. They clog passing lanes. And it is always going to be uncomfortable when the Sixers, a bigger, not lightning quick team, face the Boston Celtics. So it's always going to be a bad matchup. They're always going to look ugly. But Joel Embiid and a Seth Curry dribble handoff game, 2-man game, is absolutely crucial to making that a little less clunky, I think, for the team.
Jay, you were talking about Ben. Go ahead.
Yep. Well, I would say that Shake Milton's ability to get into the teeth of the defense and score at a really high rate on drives, I think, has been a revelation for this team. And those are the kind of skill sets that can make the Celtics rethink the way they defend. I will say that.
I want to get your opinion on, you mentioned Ben. I think everybody's frustrated with what they're seeing. How much of that is because Seth Curry is not there with Danny Green and having multiple shooters? Because it seemed that early in the year, he was having more space because those defenders can't build that wall because they got to step out to Curry and Green because they respect those guys. So are you noticing that the problems are coinciding more with Curry being out, or has this been a constant problem the whole season?
I don't think it's as simple with him as just inserting Seth Curry back in. I was looking at, anybody that knows I love shot charts, and I think they tell you a lot about both how the defense is playing you and about your ability to get the shots you want. And the other night, what I saw was a team that took away the corner three. They denied the corner three, and they forced all 3-point attempts to be above the break. The Sixers only took 3 shots, 3 3-pointers from the corners in that game. And I think what that is doing is really baiting Ben Simmons into sending his outlets when he drives. His outlets are above the break, which is basically where they try to jump that route for a pick six. So just having Seth Curry out there, the ball's got to make it to Seth Curry before he can knock down a 3. And I think there's just far too many turnovers on that action. Now, I do think it will help when you have Embiid and Curry working a game, which is creating driving lanes for Simmons to be a cutter maybe, or just be as a secondary action where the other team can't sort of camp in the lane against him. But when he's initiating, I don't think Seth Curry totally solves the problem.
How do you view the 2 3-point attempts that Ben Simmons took last game? They were both air balls, one at the end of the shot clock. The other was just about 500 feet short. Is it a positive? Hey, he took it. Or is it demoralizing?
500 feet.
What? Did you see it?
It was bad, but not that bad.
I thought it was great. It was like it was a great setup, first of all. He was in the right spot to be the outlet. He didn't hesitate. He released it. It's a spot that he doesn't practice much. If you see him before the game, he normally practices in the corners. But he didn't let the fact that it's not really his spot keep him from shooting in rhythm. Now, it was way short, but I don't care. To me, honestly, like until you start making them, obviously that you're not penalizing the defense for playing that way. But before you can start making them, you got to start shooting them. And just to me, there was no hesitation. He didn't shrink from going to the correct spot on the floor. He didn't stay in the corner and hide there because that was taken away. So to me, it was 100% positive other than the result. And I think his coach probably feels the same way.
All right, Sixers tomorrow night. Joel Embiid supposed to be back in that game. Seth Curry, do we have any news on him?
So Matisse Thybulle, I think, let it slip that they do not expect Seth to play tomorrow. And I think if I read the timeline correctly, I think he is Thursday would be the earliest day that you could trust a negative test result. So I think it's going to be at least Thursday before he's available.
All right, you can hear that game Wednesday night right here on 97.3 ESPN, the Sixers, and then Friday night and Saturday. So Sixers Wednesday, Friday, Saturday, the rest of this week, and then back at it Monday here against the Pistons. All the games on 97.3 ESPN. Don't forget, Inside the Sixers, of course, every day at this time right here on the Sports Best. Jay Blevins, follow him on Twitter at JBlevinsNBA, and check out his piece on Tyrese Maxey at 97.3ESPN.com. How come no one's going Mad Max like when when Maxwell played here? Vernon Maxwell.
Oh, it's coming. The Mad Max is coming. I've started to hear it for sure.
All right. I was wondering, like everyone's like, oh, this guy needs they're like, this guy needs a nickname. I'm like, Mad Max. I mean, Vernon Maxwell was here. That's what everybody called him.
Yep, he's getting one, and I think Isaiah Joe is quickly becoming Hey Joe, Jimi Hendrix reference,
right,
or Say It Ain't So Joe. So, yeah, those nicknames are coming, especially when people start really paying attention.
All right, we'll be following along. Jay Blevins here on the Inside the Sixers. Thanks, man.
Hey, thank you.
Yeah, man. He'll be back, of course, Inside the Sixers tomorrow. Paul Hudrick is here.